Hello and welcome again to another installment of DC808 on the Wire. I'm Chad Blair in the Civil Beat newsroom in Kaimuki, talking to our good friend and Washington, D.C. Bureau Chief, Kerry Murakami. Hi, Kerry. How are you?
Aloha, Chad. How's things back in Hawaii?
Things good. Looks like you're growing a little scruff there.
Turning a little gray, too.
Turning a little gray. Well, that's part of the job, and we're glad to have you on board. Hey, I've got to ask you, all the talk on the news has been about Benghazi, and now the IRS and the Tea Party, and as well the Department of Justice and the Associated Press phone records. Seems like it's scandal city there in Washington. Can you give us a little perspective?
Day to day with the delegation, I think folks are busy. There's immigration reform going on this week, and I think people are certainly talking about it, and their reaction is kind of, oh no, what a mess. But I don't think it's sort of dominating like the day-to-day work.
There's no sense that perhaps the president might really be in trouble, and then that maybe 2014 Hawaii Democrats here, any concern at all about disrupting that good relationship with the White House?
Not that I've heard, but it's I'm sure it's a concern. I'm sure the strategists are all thinking about it. It'd be kind of ironic if Hanabusa leaves the House and if she would win the Senate race, she ends up in the Senate and she's back in the minority again.
Yeah, that's the big question. Speaking of Hanabusa, Brian Schatz, the senator. Colleen Hanabusa wants his job, retweeted this out today. An NBC News reporter said, Tea Party in Hawaii was targeted by IRS. Asked if he's at the point where he thinks people should be fired, Brian Schatz said yes, and Schatz went ahead and retweeted that on his own Twitter account.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's come back home, the whole IRS issue.
I know, because there is actually a Tea Party movement here in the islands. I've met some of those folks. Let's move on to another issue, immigration law. Just quickly, set for us the scene of what's happening in Washington.
So the Senate is moving on the immigration bill. It's in the Judiciary Committee, and there's 300 amendments that senators have offered. So they're going through it one by one. Or Senator Hirono has offered 24 amendments on her own, and so far she's been pretty successful getting 4 of her amendments passed. There's a big one this week with COFA, which that's near and dear to your heart, Chad.
It is. That stands for the Compact of Free Association. That's the agreement that the U.S. government has with 3 nations in Micronesia. I grew up in Kwajalein in the Marshall Islands, grew up living next door to Marshallese people, and it's a very serious issue. They've come here to Hawaii. They are allowed to by the government, and yet they've also been requiring health needs. And so the state has been providing that health care at an expense of over $100 million a year, not getting enough money back from the federal government to reimburse it. But Hirono's amendment will help get back some of the money. Is that correct?
It'll make them eligible for Medicaid, which means that that's a cost that the federal government would pick up with their health care and something that the state wouldn't have to pay for anymore. So it's a savings of, I think, about $40 million a year, which is a big deal for a state like ours.
And it's a big deal that a freshman senator like Hirono actually getting some amendments accepted by the Senate Judiciary. Am I overstating that?
It is a big deal, especially because the proposal was crafted by this gang of 8 Democrats and Republicans, and it was a very tenuous deal. So to change, they're very worried about making any changes to the agreement that they made.
The final thing I want to talk about is Colleen Hanabusa and her close association with the late Senator Dan Inouye. Once again, we see Colleen Hanabusa connected almost at the hip with the senator. Is this going to help her election chances against Brian Schatz?
Yeah, we'll see. I'm sure it can't hurt. We'll see how big of a factor it ultimately plays out. But she seems to be talking about Inouye as much as she can. She was at Walter Reed earlier this week.
Oh, that's right.
At a building named in his honor. And there's pictures of her that she released, looking at a picture of Inouye's on the wall and mentioning Inouye in her speech. And so without overtly saying, well, the senator picked me, it seems like she's bringing it up as much as she can and more subtly reminding people that she was his choice.
One thought I might just add to that, I was at the Oahu County Democrats convention over last weekend, or Saturday, and she made a video presentation, and in that presentation she also brought up Senator Inouye. My only critical comment is I wonder if she might be identifying herself too closely with the senator and therefore not carving out her own identity, something that Hirono seems to be doing in the Senate, and I know Schatz and Tulsi Gabbard are doing as well. But that's just my 2 cents worth. Any thoughts on that one?
No, that's a good point, Chad. I mean, ultimately, it's like the voters are voting for Hanabusa, not Inouye, and so I'm sure it'll help, but she certainly has to carve out her own identity.
Well, Kerry Murakami, as always, there's way too much stuff for us to talk about and not enough time. But it's good to be back in touch with you, and we'll look forward, as always, to working with you on future stories affecting Hawaii and Washington, D.C.
Thanks a lot, Chad. I will talk to you again next week.
And that's another installment of DC808 on the Wire. As always, Chad Blair in Honolulu. Aloha, and please take care.